Okay, excuse me again. Got this little tickle in my throat. All right, a minute. Just a few minutes. Anyone who's logging in, I want to make sure everybody gets on. It's up to you. You can unmute yourself if you'd like to participate. If it's noisy where you are, whatever, feel free to keep yourself on mute. If you have a camera, turn that on so we can see each other. I'm just gonna double check that this camera's like still going here. Get any feedback here? All right. Pardon my little tickle. I think this is from the mulch on last Monday that I moved tons and tons of it, and it gave me like a runny nose. And so there's that. Anyways, again, thank you everyone for logging in. Doing my best to find a really good time and date that's going to work for trainings, because I know you're all very busy and I know you all have very unique schedules. However, I thought that 8:30 on Monday morning is a great way to start our week. And this computer, oh, it's okay, Derek. You're okay. I'll pretend like I see your face. Hopefully this will work for people if you can rearrange your schedule at all. If not, I'm doing my best to record and go live on our private Facebook group. That way that if you don't get a chance to watch it, you can watch it at a later time. And if you think like, oh, what did she say about that? You can always go back to those videos as well. I'm also storing all the videos on Florida Future Realty training on my YouTube channel. If I have not sent you the link to that, let me know, because I'm putting just kind of our in-house trainings there. If you go on my main YouTube channel, you'll find all kinds of stuff like that I've posted, but this one is just going to be like our in-house training. So you can go back and see any of the trainings that I've done. If you're like, oh, I really want to, maybe you hadn't really marketed before. And so you're not tuned in today because you're like, I don't need marketing or whatever. And then in 4 months from now, you're like, you know what, I really want to start marketing, and so you would log into this Marketing 101 and rewatch that or watch it for the first time. I'm trying to get this dog to give me some space here. He is totally not having it. Told him this is where I was sitting and he's like, it's okay, I'll be here with you. Speaking of dogs, so I want to segue that into marketing. Have you ever seen like the agent with their dog, their cat, and they call themselves a dog lover or the cat lady or whatever? Like that's marketing, and that's branding, marketing, but people are going to remember it. There used to be like a guy that called himself the condo king, and he put like a crown on his head, and that was kind of his thing. Now if that's not your style, that's totally cool, because I know that not everyone wants to be the king or queen of something. But if you have something that is you, and we talked about branding last week, and hopefully you've all had time to go through and kind of decide who you are, or who you want to convey to the public, or your sphere of who you are, and also started developing that avatar that you're marketing to. Because if we can have that specific avatar, we can drill our marketing down very well and have a lot of success with it. There are tons of different ways to advertise and get business, but we have to be doing at least a few of those ways. I'm not saying that you're going to do every way that we're going to talk about today, but I want you to have a good understanding of all of the different marketing avenues that are out there. And marketing encompasses like everything. It encompasses like your branding, your advertising, how you're portrayed, your follow-up, like all of that is marketing, and it's putting yourself out there so that people can find you. I always talk about McDonald's, because everyone knows McDonald's, whether you love them or hate them. Everyone knows McDonald's, and everyone knows what to expect if they go to McDonald's. They know what they sell. They know the quality of food that they're going to receive. And even though everyone, I mean, I guess this is probably worldwide, everyone knows McDonald's, they still advertise. They're still marketing. I still get, coupons in the mail. I still see them on TV or social media. They still market to everyone, even though everyone knows who they are. Now, think about that as yourself as a real estate agent. Who knows who you are? You might have some people that know who you are. Do they all know that you work in real estate? And do they all know what specific market you work in real estate? Like, do they know you're a condo specialist, a waterfront specialist, an investor specialist, first time homebuyer specialist? I'm going to gather, but most of them don't. I hear it all the time where agents, and this is usually not our agents, but agents like on Facebook groups that I'm on, they will be so upset because their cousin, their sister, their best friend, their neighbor, whomever listed a house, sold a house, and didn't call them. And they're furious. But guess what? 9 times out of 10, the reason they didn't get that phone call is because they were out of sight, out of mind, or literally they didn't know at all that their neighbor, their friend, whatever was in real estate. It's how you, um, oh geez, I just lost that word. It's how you show yourself to the world. If you are constantly posting, like let's just say on social media, you're constantly just posting things that have nothing to do with real estate, they're not going to think of you in real estate. Now, social media, I still feel like should be 80% like personal stuff and only like 20% business stuff. So you don't want to be the agent that's just constantly posting, just sold, just listed, out with customers. This is the market, not all nonstop. I mean, that's fine on your business pages, but on your personal Facebook page, it should be about 80%, personal, so they get to know you, and then 20% business stuff. But if you never talk about what it is that you do, or you never reach out in, a private message or a phone call with these people to remind them what you do, they're not going to call upon you. So we really have to make sure that we have a solid marketing plan, and it needs to be consistent. You can't 1 month decide that you're going to do a mailer, and then next month decide you're doing a park bench, and then the next month you're going to do a shopping cart, and then the next month you're going to call everybody. Like, that isn't consistent. You need to have a consistent plan where each month, each week, each day, whatever that looks like, that you're doing something toward whatever that goal that you set was. So getting started here, I'm going to share this with everyone after the training today. And if you've been with me for a while, you've seen it. If you're new, you have not probably seen this exactly, but it's a 12-month marketing plan on keeping in touch with your sphere of influence in marketing. So what we talk about here are like birthdays. I would try to get every single one of your friends, families, customers, prospects, birthdays. That way you can make sure that you send them, even if it's a text or a phone call on their birthday. You don't necessarily have to mail a real card, but at least just to acknowledge them on their birthday. So that's one thing. Anniversaries are another big thing. Not necessarily like a husband and wife anniversary or a husband and husband anniversary, but the anniversary of when they bought their home with you. So if you've been in the business at least, a couple of years, you should start having those people that you're like, oh, so and so bought that house for me in March. I'm going to make sure that I send them an anniversary card, or at least, call them and say, hey, congratulations. Did you know today is a year that you've owned your house? Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Thanks for calling me, Susan. Yeah, by the way, if you know of anyone who's thinking of buying or selling, I would love your referrals. Great. That's getting in front of them again. That's reminding them what you do. And it's also showing them that you care. So our CRM, you can put all that in there. That's the back end of our Real Geeks website. You can put in notes in there. You can put in anniversary dates. You can put in birth dates. I wouldn't say that it's the best one for tracking things like that. So you may want to create your own. And if you don't have a CRM, you should probably think about getting one. There's a whole bunch of them out there. They range from free with limited, capabilities all the way up into the hundreds of dollars, but you should be able to get a really good one for anywhere between free and $50 a month. Use ours until you're at a point where you can invest that extra money for sure. You can also just use a notebook and write everything down, especially if you're new, you don't have thousands of deals yet to keep track of. So just start in a notebook. And then when you get to the point where you're going to have your own CRM, you just input everything in there. Okay. Um, the other thing is, at tax time, like usually January, February, March, you can send them their HUD statement, their closing disclosure from the previous year, because they're going to need that at tax time, or maybe they're going to need to file homestead exemption, or maybe they need to show that, in their tax return that they purchased or sold something. So that's always a nice little touch too. It's about finding meaningful touches that add value, and not just sending random things. Like, I don't want you just to randomly send a postcard and then another time randomly send this. Like, you want to have a purpose and a plan. And I know that it can get frustrating and overwhelming. So that's why, I want you to look at this and pick a few of these that, resonate with you. If you, normally wouldn't talk to someone on their birthday, maybe you say, you know what, that seems a little too personal for me. But if you're the type of person that is always telling people happy birthday anyways, well, add your customers and prospective customers on that. Okay. So here's a few other ideas. We have holiday cards. You could have a New Year's card, a Valentine's Day card, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, spring card, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Father's Day, July 4th, back to school, Labor Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, and back to New Year. So, I mean, look at a calendar. You can also find like online those calendars that tell you like, weird like holidays, like today is National Cookie Day or something like that. And you can, just have another touch there. The idea is that you stay, top of mind to people. Now, you don't want to become like, oh, just the holiday agent, unless that's your gig. But it's just another way to keep in touch with people so that they're reminded of you. We have a lot of other things put on here. We have a newsletter. You can have a newsletter on email. You can have a newsletter on your website. You can have a newsletter that you mail to people. It's real easy, like MailChimp.com. It's a free newsletter service. There's a whole bunch of other ones. Again, they can range from free to 50 or $100 a month. But I suggest you get one and you use it. When I first got started, I didn't have like one of those services. So I literally just had all of my email addresses in my computer, and I sent them an email every month, BCC'd, so they don't see each other's email addresses. And that's how I did it. And I would have people 2 years, 3 years, 4 years after our first communication contacting me. You were the only agent that stayed in touch with me. I'm ready to buy a house, or I'm ready to sell a house. Because we all have good intentions on keeping in touch with people, but things get in the way. We forget, every month you're like, I don't know what to say. I have to sit and think about it. But it's very important to keep in touch. So if you can come commit to like a monthly newsletter or even a quarterly newsletter, you'll be shocked how many people actually like getting those and remember you because of it. Now, people do get a lot of emails, so you want to make sure that you're putting something of value. You don't want to send them an email that, doesn't have any value in it. Stuff that I find doesn't have value are just braggadocious newsletters. I sold a house. I did this. I. Like, nobody really cares what you did. They want to know what's in it for them. So if you can say, hey, here's market conditions in your neighborhood, or here's a new listing, things that are going to be of value to them. You can add like home maintenance tips and things like that. But I try to stay away from like the really generic ones where there's different services that, agents have signed up for, and they'll put like, oh, it's winter time to winterize your home. And we're in Florida and it looks really ridiculous to send those out. So if you're going to use one of those services, definitely make sure that you look at the marketing piece prior to it going out and adjust and edit, as needed, because we don't want to be sending people tips about shoveling snow when we're trying to sell the Southwest Florida lifestyle. A lot of our customers may potentially be up north, so I guess it could still kind of go with that, but it really would still just seem completely generic. And if it were me, I'd probably unsubscribe from generic newsletters like that. Like, I get one that comes from mortgage brokers, and there are probably like 10 different mortgage brokers that were sending me this exact same canned newsletter. And I just unsubscribed from it all, because I felt like if they couldn't take the time to make their own newsletter to let me know what's really going on with, you know, loans and rates and stuff. I just felt like, they were lazy. So think about that before you send something out. It's got to be something quality. It's not just enough just to send something to send something. If it's garbage, then they're not going to pay attention to it. Direct mail, again, this could be like strategic farming. I never suggested to someone just to blanket target, a whole city or something. I mean, we have way too many people in this area to do that. But if you live in like a gated community or a named little area, maybe target that. Or if there's, an area you want to break into with your real estate, target that area. I would suggest somewhere between 200 and 500 households. Excuse me. Less than 200, you're kind of shooting in the dark. That's not really a good sample. More than 500 is going to get really expensive and you probably won't stay consistent. Let me doggy get out of here. He's about to knock over my computer. Chevy. He's on the other couch. Manual prospecting, I know a few of you have done this, flyers, door hangers, things like that. That's where like you actually go out and you do these things. You can drop off little gifts. They call them like stop bys or pop-bys or pop-ups or whatever you want to call them. You can do that with people you've already worked with. So like you could keep a list of all the people you've sold houses to, and then like, let's say a holiday's coming up. A lot of people do this at like Thanksgiving, and they'll pop by with a pie. That's it's a little more expensive, but it's a great way to stay in touch with those past customers. There's nothing worse than thinking you had a really good relationship with a customer and you see their house listed that you sold them and listed with someone else, and they didn't even give you the opportunity to list their house. It really, really sucks. So all these little things keep you top of mind. They'll remember you. They'll know that you care. Open houses. Open houses are back. Obviously, last year we had to cancel open houses because of the COVID, but people are back doing them. They're very effective at picking up customers. They're not super effective at actually selling that person's home necessarily, but it's a great way to pick up customers. Now, I will tell you that probably 60 or 70% of people that show up at open houses already have an agent, or at least that's what they tell you. Sometimes it could be true. Sometimes they could be just saying that. We have an open house sign-in sheet that actually asks them for their information, and ask them if they have an agent, and then to put their agent's information if they do. That way we'd know we don't need to waste our time following up with that customer. If they have an agent, they have an agent. We don't sit and try to convince them that we should be their agent. We just say, hey, if you're interested in this house, have your agent call me. Or if it's not your listing, call the listing agent. If someone says, they had an agent, but it really wasn't working out, they're not committed to them, fine, fair game. You can talk to them and follow up with them and see if they, want you to be their agent. A lot of our agents have picked up really good customers from open houses. So even though like we know that open houses typically don't sell that house, they're great for picking up customers. In this market, houses aren't staying on the market for very long. So, you really don't have a lot of time to do an open house. We did one recently on a listing just in order to get all the showings done at once. And some of the agents are doing that too, like just to have it open for 2 or 4 hours one day, and hopefully then get all your offers in at that time. So as a listing agent, you could still do something like that. It helps your sellers not to be inconvenienced so much. One of our agents just took a new listing, and I think they had like 13 showings in like already a half of the day. So the sellers were overwhelmed. Think about this. The sellers have to clean their house. They have to leave. They have to, worry, about things, find somewhere to go for that half the day or whatever. So it is inconvenient for them. And especially in this market where you're getting like 50 showings in the first weekend it's available. If you can make it easier for them, make it easier for them. And then it's also getting your name out there. We do have open house signs at the office you can check out. They're the corrugated plastic ones, and they have the little metal H frames or whatever you put them. They just have our company logo and open house. It says open house today. So then you could also put one of your own like signs or side writers next to it, just so they know, the agent as well. But that helps get traffic into open houses. I don't want to get too deep into open houses. We do have a training on open houses too. If you haven't seen it, I might have that recorded somewhere as well. Print advertising, newspapers, magazines. Go back to that avatar that we talked about that you developed hopefully in this last week. What are they reading? What publications are they reading? Do they read? Depending on your clientele, they may or may not be readers, but think about, are they getting the daily newspaper or the weekly newspaper? If they are, maybe it's worth it to be in there. A lot of print marketing is kind of dead now with, the internet. But if your target customer still reads that paper or that magazine, it's not dead. It's actually going to benefit you. So again, go back to who is that avatar? Where are they consuming their information? If it's in a print magazine or newspaper, consider putting some advertising there. Online advertising, I mean, that is so broad, all the things you can do. As you know, we have that Canva special through Agent Wise Design where you can go in and you can make all these marketing pieces. They're already done for you. They just need you to put your photo and phone number, whatever, on them. That's a good way on social media, on your website, whatever, to put really, really, really good looking graphics on there. Excuse me. Blogging or writing articles is huge. So anything informative that you can share with people, share with people. People used to be afraid of putting all the information out on the internet, and then they thought like, oh, no one will call me because they're just going to read it and get the information and go on their way. And sure, that's going to happen sometimes, but it's also going to bring you like people that already feel like they know you and trust you because they've read these informative posts and blog posts and articles that you've written and put out there. So if you're a decent writer, go ahead and put that out there. If you're not a decent writer, you could do videos too. Videos are huge right now. People want to see videos. For me, it depends on what I'm trying to learn. If I just want a really quick answer on something, I'd rather read something to find the part that pertains to what I need to know. But if it's something that I'm kind of new to, or really just like the person speaking, I will watch videos, and I do watch videos. But if it's just something I want to know quickly, I'd rather see it written. So my point of saying that is that if you're giving somebody information like about a community or the area or the boating or the waterways or something like that, I would probably do both a video and written so they could choose which method they're going to look at. And you can do that all in the same blog post. Like you can put a blog post, you can put a really nice picture so they see the picture. You could embed your video right in there, and then you could write a blog post as well. I will say, I miss red pen, and have someone proofread what you write. And this goes for print or online, especially print, but online as well. If I'm on a website or something and I start reading and I see like typos or misspelled words, like I lose credibility for that person. So make sure that you go through and reread it. Have your spouse or friend reread it. If you really want help to send it to me, I will definitely look at it for you. It just kind of, no matter how good the content may seem, when somebody gets to that part, or certain people get to that part, they're going to be turned away and they're going to feel like, it's not professional at that point. So get things, proofread. It's hard to proofread things yourself. I myself have written something and then walked away from it, and someone else has said, oh, Susan, you had a mistake. And I'm like, oh no. And I go and I fix it. But when I had reread it, when I wrote it, I was reading it the way it was supposed to be. That makes sense because I'm the one writing it. So I missed a couple of the parts that, did have mistakes in them. The other thing is sometimes when I write very much to probably like a 4th or 5th grade level, and more of like how I would talk to someone without sounding, so educated and professional. That could be a turnoff for some people too. So I've had people, say, hey, maybe you could, beef this up a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, so depending on who you're trying to target. If they're super educated, make sure that you're writing it that way. If they're super technical, write it more that way. If they're airy and fluffy, write it that way. Again, it goes back to your avatar, and make sure that you're writing to them. Social media, we kind of talked on a little bit. You know, my favorite is really Facebook right now. The younger people aren't on Facebook. It's us old people that are on Facebook, but that's kind of where I've been doing my best networking and socializing. You can use Instagram, you can use Snapchat, you can use Pinterest, you can use Twitter. I have all of those. I've used all of those. I just really don't find them as effective. Other agents have. I know a lot of agents that are getting a lot of traction using Instagram right now. A lot of them have become very like entertaining, and they're doing like funny skits and things like that. I like that, and I think that if that's your style, that could be really good for you too. So think about that. People are looking to be entertained on a lot of those. So if you're sharing like a very informative, probably not getting a lot of traction on Instagram, or whichever one you're going to use. So just consider where your avatar is. If your avatar, you know, you're looking for the young people buying their first home and stuff, they're probably on Instagram. They're probably not on Facebook. So you're going to want to market where they are. Radio and TV advertising, this isn't as popular as it used to be, but it is still effective. It's very expensive, so I wouldn't suggest you start it right now, but it's very effective. If you can get where your audience, your avatar is, you can really get a lot of return. I've done radio before. I have not personally done TV. I do know people that have done TV, and it kind of makes them like a little star. So, you know, people will be like, oh, I saw you on TV. And they do, they get a little like fandom in their eye. Like they're like, oh, you know, like fanboy or girl. And so if that's your style and you think you'd want to do something like that, keep them in the back of your head. You know, it may not be in your budget right now, but maybe it will be in the future. Or maybe, you know, you decide it's worth putting invest the money into it for the return you'll receive. Radio and TV advertising is a little quicker than like say like print to someone's house. You're going to get a return probably within 2 to 4 months, depending on your messaging and things. But it definitely helps. And the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of this is like combining these different avenues. Like don't think that you can just do one and you're going to get like this influx of, you know, customers reaching out to you. You need to have like a combination of them, because people want to like, they see you on the bench, and then they read you in the paper, and then they hear you on the radio. Wow, like you're everywhere in their mind, you know what I mean? Like, but if they only see once, they're not going to remember you. Like as much as you think that, you know, you spent so much time developing that marketing piece and making it perfect, and you thought you had a really good like value and call to action, they're getting so many marketing pieces in front of them, they're not going to remember that one. You know, maybe when you get to about 3 to 5, they start kind of thinking about you, but it's more that 7 to 10 touches where they're actually going to be like, oh, I see Susan all over the place. And then once you get there and they actually think of you, now you got to keep staying on top of their mind, because you're easily forgotten too. Not to say you're not special, because you're super special, but in the eyes of the consumer, they're just inundated with marketing. Networking events and meetings. This is huge. Where are your people at? We talked about this a little bit last week in the branding and who your avatar is. Find out where they are. You know, are they at sporting events? Are they at networking events? Are they at the church? You know, where are they? There's festivals around here. There's so many ways to get in front of people around here. Most everything is reopened again where you can get face to face with people. That's really where you're going to be able to make those connections and relationships, is face to face. All this other stuff is just trying to get you the face to face to start building those relationships. But you want to make sure it makes sense. Like if you're, you know, not a godly person, don't join a church to try to meet Christians, you know, that you want to solicit business to. Like that's not going to feel authentic and real. Okay, if you're already going to church, make sure that people at church know what it is that you do. You know what I mean? Like that's the worst. And yeah, there's probably going to be a bunch of other agents there too, but that's okay. People are going to do business with who they connect with. So keep connecting with people, and make sure that you let them know what you do. You know, if you have kids and they're in different, you know, sports or activities, make sure the other parents there know what it is that you do. And not just, hi, I'm Susan and I'm a real estate broker. It's like, no, you look at the person, you say, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a da da da. Oh, really? Tell me about that. And then you actually care for what they're telling you. And then they'll be like, oh, what is it that you do? And then you tell them, and then you have that conversation. I will also tell you that everyone wants to talk about real estate. Like, no, they don't want you to be that annoying, like salesperson, like, oh, here comes Johnny again trying to sell us a house. You don't want to be that in your face salesperson. But trust me, when you start talking about real estate, they're going to be like, oh, how is the market? I've heard it's crazy right now. Or, you know, my neighbor just sold their house. They said they had like 20 offers. And you're like, yeah, this is what's happening. And you can start that conversation with them. It's super important. Speaking events, this might not be for everyone, but if you can go and get involved in speaking events, these can either be events that you put on yourself, or it could be where you get like a little snippet time in front of another audience. You don't necessarily have to even talk about real estate. Like if you have something else you can talk about in front of people, you could do that. And then, you know, obviously they would have your bio and stuff and a little plug for you. So don't think that has to be inside the box fully that you would get in front of people and only speak about real estate. Think of other things you might know. Like you guys know I like to garden and I like to do like butterflies and bees and stuff. Like I could go speak to somebody right now and tell them, you know, different plants to put in their garden and why. And it's totally not related to real estate, but it's still getting my name out there and starting more relationships to build. So the things that are your hobbies and your interests, you can combine that into, you know, by the way, I'm in real estate too. So don't limit yourself to those. Educational workshops, we used to do a lot of these at the office. I used to do them for new agents to come in and like learn what it's like to be a real estate agent. We've done first time home buyers seminars. We've done, you know, staging seminars on how to like stage your home properly. We've done workshops for investors, like first time investors that just want to learn the gist of it. And you can do those. Our office probably isn't big enough if you're going to have a huge group, but our conference room easily holds 8 or 10 people. If you thought you were going to just have a small group, which probably your first few would be smaller. After that, you might need to find like a restaurant with their own room or a library or meeting center or something to hold them. But there are a lot of options of where to hold things. You can bring in different experts. You could bring in like a mortgage professional, a title professional, an insurance person, like all of that. And they can also help you cover the cost of it, because normally you're going to have an expense of renting a place, maybe even food. The marketing is going to cost you money. And, you know, what we've done in the past is you get a group of 4 or 5 different professionals together and you all kind of split the cost and put that together. You can even do it with another agent at the office and decide like, okay, every lead we're going to split in half, or, you know, it's feast and famine, whoever makes the connections, get the business, however you want to work that out. But it's totally doable and going to be more fun and easier if you do it with a group of people. If you try to do it all yourself, like handling all of the marketing and signups and food and organizing and putting on the presentation and following up, like it's a lot for one person. But if you get even 3 or 4 people together, you can do a really nice educational workshop. It doesn't have to be in person either. Consider doing a webinar too. Like you could do it on Zoom or something. Maybe people that are moving from out of the area to just kind of explain to them what's going on. Possibly for sellers that are like, oh, you know, I would sell my house, but then I'm nervous, where would I go? Because I've heard the market's crazy. So then you could maybe walk them through some scenarios of how you would help them work that out. Just a little tidbit here I have written. Statistics show that following up with a phone call after mailing, emailing, or meeting doubles your chances of closing a deal or an appointment. Remember, the goal is to get an appointment with the prospect to either help them find a house to buy or to help them sell.
The point of calls and follow-up is not to be an informational source alone. You want to provide enough information that they see the value you'll bring so they'll want to meet you. However, you want to leave enough out so they still want to meet with you, if that makes sense. So give them enough so they know you're knowledgeable and they can trust you, but leave just enough that they're going to want to follow up with you. The real estate industry is changing a lot, as you can tell. Like, there's some big players out there that are doing a lot of automated things. So our biggest saving grace is to be that resource for people. Make sure that you know things, that you're resourceful to find things that you don't know. And that means finding them on your own, like not just, asking someone else. Like, you need to know how to find things. So, keep that in the back of your mind. Like, real estate, you have to be super resourceful. Meeting location, I just added this in: at their home, at a cafe, a restaurant, at our office, at the hotel. Make sure it's a place that you can sit down and chat for a bit. So this is like once you get to that point where they're ready to meet with you. Don't meet customers just at a random house that they just called about until you had that first sit down meeting. I know that's not always possible to have that first sit down meeting, especially when we have a lot of people coming from up north, but you at least want to have that phone consult or video consult. Video would be even better because you see each other's faces and start to build a little more of a trust fund. That's all that one says. There was an article that I found earlier that I thought was really good. I'm going to also send this to you. It's a couple years old, but marketing's marketing. It was 26 amazing real estate marketing strategies that actually work. And it's pretty long, but I'm going to just hit on a couple of them, that maybe one on my sheet here. And then I will also send you the link to this. I did not write this. I actually don't know the person that wrote it. I just thought it was pretty good. So it talks about what's an effective real estate marketing strategy, no competitors. I don't know if that's huge, really. I think if you start trying to be like a competitor or being not like a competitor, then you get wrapped up into that. I think it's better to figure out who you are and who your avatar is, but you should know what competitors are out there doing and saying also, because it's embarrassing to sit down at, a listing appointment or a buyer consult and they're like, oh, I talked to so and so at such and such company, I'm thinking of it, what, and you don't know anything or whatever. I mean, maybe that could be good because then it prevents you from saying anything negative, which we totally don't want to do because we're realtors and that's against our code of ethics. But it's at least nice to know what those people are, marketing or selling so that you can, compete against that. Like if they're offering, less money, charging them less money, or they're offering, some, fire me at any time, or, whatever marketing tactics they may be using, you can be ready to have those objection handlers ready. Highlight your USP. That's your unique selling proposition. Again, that goes back to your branding and who your target avatar is so that, they know that you're the one for them. Virtual tours, that goes into marketing. Some of the marketing, like you might think about, also is when you have a listing, and this really didn't delve into that. We'll do another one kind of talking more about that, because this is more like marketing your whole brand just to get those people in the door. Implementing storytelling, I think this one is huge. Say like you're working with some buyers and they don't really believe you of this market and they still want to put in, under asking on these new listings because that's what they've always done and that's how they handle things. You can either one of two things. You can let them learn the hard way, and eventually they'll be like, okay, you weren't lying, we've missed out on 5 homes, it's time to get serious. I wouldn't do the approach that says I'm not going to help you until you get serious, because you're going to turn people off. Like, I haven't been that way. Like, I will work with them and work through that. Unless they're just completely ridiculous, which some people are. The other way is to tell a story. Be like, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I can appreciate that. And, I realize that would be ideal, but in this market, that's just not how things are working. Last week, for instance, I had buyers, I finally got under contract, and the first 3, they put in, these lower offers, and not even really that low, like 3 or 5% below asking price, but we got beat out on 3 of them before they finally went, 2% or 5,000 or whatever over the asking price, and they got under contract and they are thrilled. So I gave them a story of someone else so that it's not so much of pointing at them and saying, you got to do this and you can't do that. It's just telling them the stories of these other people and what's happening. If you don't have your own stories, utilize the agents at the office, see what they're experiencing. I get a lot of my third party stories from like Facebook, people, other agents, and they talk about like what's going on, and I'm like, wow, this, I heard this the other day. And so you can use other people's stories if you don't necessarily have your own stories, but the third party storytelling is the way to go. Influencer marketing. If you can find like an influencer to talk about you and say how great you are, I've seen that work a lot. I mean, there are people that use like the Barbara Corcoran through the commercials and stuff. I think it feels a little cheesy. There's like, I think it's Sean Hannity. They do it where they'll plug you on their radio show or, whatever show. I think people know that they're not really endorsing you, that you just paid for it. But if you happen to know someone who's kind of like influential and they might do it because they actually do know you and like you, maybe implement that. Festival marketing. I think that we're open back up here in Southwest Florida. Last year we lost a lot of those opportunities, but people are at farmers markets, they're at art festivals, they're at seafood fest, they're at taco fest, there's so many things going on. And most of those, you can get a booth. We have, if you don't want to purchase it all on your own, we have almost everything you need at the office. We have the table, we have the canopy, we have chairs. And of course, like all of our marketing stuff still has the old logo, but we're slowly getting that replaced. But if you don't want to go out and buy all your own things, we have a lot of that you can just check out at the office and borrow. Even if you don't want to buy, pay for the booth, which some of them are only $50, $100, $300, depending on what event it is, you could just go there, have your name tag on, meet people. Just think about like where your people are. A couple of these I don't really love. Creating a website, again, that brands you and who you are. You can put everything on a website. You can put your photos on a website, put your videos on a website, put your blog posts on a website, put your testimonials on the website. Connecting with communities, Nextdoor app, Reddit. There's all kind of communities you can connect with, and you can do that in person or online. Talking again about email marketing, which is great. Educating the customers, we talked about that. SMS marketing, that's text messaging. You want to make sure you have permission to text message somebody or give them a way to opt out so you don't get in trouble. The same thing with making phone calls, check the do not call list, but that's effective. I know that when we get new leads on the website, they are way more likely to respond to a text message than they are to pick up their telephone. I think it also boils down to people are busy. And a lot of times when people call me, I'm busy, but I could probably text them back versus getting on a 20-minute phone call. Press releases. So any of you that are newer to the office or recently received a designation or had like a big sale or something, you can write up a press release. You could pay somebody to do it if you don't know how. Send it out to all the channels. It's very effective. And those have longevity too. Like some of our press releases, we haven't done any in a long time, but some of our press releases are still online from a long time ago. So people are still picking those up. Free seminars we talked about. Business cards, of course, we all have business cards. Go to the local restaurants, the other businesses that are not competitory, but are maybe, similar, in a way. See if they'll allow you to leave some cards. I suggest to always ask about leaving cards unless it's like totally like obvious that everybody's just leaving cards. I say that because when our office was on Del Prado, I would have so many random people stopping in to leave their business cards. And as people I had zero relationship with, didn't know who they were. And me, like 9 times out of 10, I would just throw them away because I didn't know the person. But if you do go into a business or like you frequent a restaurant, get to know the manager, the owner, whatever, and say, hey, would it be okay if I leave some cards? Sure. So then when they have a customer say, hey, do you know Susan? Yeah, Susan's great. She's awesome. She's in here all the time. Versus, I don't know the person. They just left their card. So try to build that relationship with them as well. You can do ads online like Google ads, Facebook ads. You can retarget people. So what they can do is put a cookie. If someone clicked on your ad and then they go off into the internet, your ad can keep showing back up for them. If any of you have seen, we're doing that through Google ads where you might see our ad on different websites that you go to. That's how we're doing that. Track your analytics. So when you do come up with your plan, and stick with things for several months, depending on what it is, when people do reach out to you, say, hey, can I ask, where did you hear about me? And then they might say, oh, a referral, so and so told me. Write that down. They might say, oh, I saw your ad. Well, really, where'd you see it? Write that down. Sometimes the thing that they tell you isn't necessarily the only deciding factor. Like they probably would see or hear of you a few different ways, but they might just tell you, oh, I saw your ad in the newspaper. Oh, awesome. So that you know what's working. The other thing is if you have people that are referring people to you, you need to thank them. You need to make sure that they're acknowledged for that. You can send them a thank you card, a gift card, something of that nature, just to let them know that you appreciate it. Make sure you're careful and don't go overboard with any of these because it could be construed as paying an unlicensed person and all this kind of stuff. But you definitely want to acknowledge someone for referring you business. That's super over the top for someone to do for you. So that's the end of that article and this. I think that I covered everything. Oh, the other thing I did want to touch on real quick, because if you don't feel like marketing to the masses, like if you don't feel like you'd want to like farm a neighborhood of unknowns or put your information out on the billboard or whatever, that's totally fine. Like you can do all of this and just go to your sphere of influence, people you already know. So you need to kind of weigh that. Are your sphere of influence people your target avatar audience, or are they people that are out there and you kind of, do need to do that broader marketing to them? Or it could be a combination of the two. If you've worked with a lot of high-end, or you have a lot of high-end friends and family and stuff, and you want to work in high-end luxury market, obviously go after the people that already know you. That's going to be a lot easier than going after strangers that have never heard of you, that are going to take 7 to 10 times before they even halfway think of your name, and you still don't have a relationship. People you already have a relationship with are going to be so much easier to work with. The only other thing is if you're new or really young, sometimes the people closest to you might not trust you with their real estate because they're like, oh, you worked at Walmart last week. I don't know that you know enough now in real estate. So then that's where you need to be like, you know what, my sphere of influence isn't going to help me. They're not going to be my support. They're not going to give me my business. Then you go off and you market to the people who will appreciate you and value you. So I know that there's sometimes people that get really frustrated because their friends and family aren't giving them business or referring them. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And then you need to just say, you know what? For some reason, they don't think that I have the value or experience, whatever it is. So just next and go off and find the people who do, because you don't want to be beating your head against the wall, trying to market to all your relatives that don't think that you have the expertise to help them. Especially I see that a lot with younger people where like they really don't have a lot of experience, and maybe some friends or family will use them just because they feel guilty or like bad for them or whatever, and that's okay too. But it's better to work with people that actually like value your experience and your knowledge. And if you're new, go get that experience and knowledge. And the knowledge you can get by researching everything and figuring out what's going on, and what are they building over there, and how much did that house sell for over here, and how much did prices increase month over month, year over year. Like knowing all of those statistics are going to set you apart from maybe an agent that's been in the business a lot longer, but they've kind of gotten, I don't want to call them lazy, but lazy. and they don't know what's going on with everything because they're just so comfortable with having, just those repeat and referrals that they haven't really had to go out and learn something new. So wherever you are, market to that, use that avatar to make sure that what you're sending matches that avatar. You don't want to say, oh, I'm going to work luxury home buyers, the people that just have discretionary funds, and then start advertising like, you know, first time home buyer credits. Like, why would you do that? Like, that's not a clear message. So just once you have that avatar and your brand, all your marketing should be cohesive to that. And yeah, it's also the colors and the how the feel of everything, so that they could tell like, oh, that's from so and so again. Definitely, but it's also what it says, because if you're all over the place and trying to, market to everyone, it's not going to get to your avatar. When your avatar reads your marketing or sees your marketing, you want them to feel like, this is me. They can help me. This is the person that, I need to reach out to. So it's got to be very compelling. If anyone has any questions, if you want to put it in the chat. I can't see the Facebook Live right now because my phone's backwards. I can see the Zoom. Um, if not, great. I will send you both of these documents so you can start working your plan. Next week, I'm going to have a special guest, Ashley Gotch from Agent Wise Design is going to be doing a Zoom. I will send you the link, and also we'll have it afterwards saved as well. But she's going to show you those Canva graphics and how to use them and how to edit and do everything, because I've realized that a lot of you aren't utilizing the service. I paid for it, I covered it for everybody. It's part of, your monthly fee to the office too. So I want to make sure you're using it. And there are like over 1,000 different graphics and things. She also has in there like I think it's a buyer document or seller document. Like there's actual like documents you can download and edit and use also for sending to people. So it's not just graphics. If you're not big into graphics, like know that there's other things there too. But she'll go over all that next week. Monday, 8:30. That's going to be our just ongoing training. Unless, something crazy comes up, that's going to be the plan. And I'll let you know in advance whether we're going to be in the office or I'll just be doing it online, depending on what that looks like. So if you guys have any specific topics you would like covered, or maybe a special guest you would like me to have on, definitely let me know, and I will do my best to get them turned, into the schedule so that we can make sure that we're all learning, what it is that we want to learn. All right, everybody, have an awesome, awesome rest of your day, and I will see you soon.